This is my iPhone 13. I got this guy 2 years ago, and since then it's been my daily driver. At that time I wanted something more like a 13 Pro, but to be honest with you, this phone has taught me some lessons, and today we're going to talk about them. This is my iPhone 13 review after 2 years. An honest one. Let's begin. Let's start with the reason why I bought this phone in the first place. Before this, I had an iPhone XS, which I used for 3 years. And I was very happy with it. Very good and very solid phone overall. Until I broke the glass. Like, the whole glass. At first it wasn't too bad, but at some point Face ID stopped working. And then I decided that I need to make an upgrade. And that upgrade was this iPhone 13. After 2 years of usage, I think I'm able to tell you anything you need to know about it, and if it's still relevant today. Also, by the end of this video, you will find out if upgrading right now is worth or not for me. So let's see. I will begin with the things that I like about this phone. So number one, design and build quality. I was really happy when Apple decided to go back to the straight lines and the squarish design. However, there's a caveat. When holding it without a case, it tends to be a bit uncomfortable and often slippery. I'm using a case most of the time, so it is not that big of a deal for me. However, sometimes I like to enjoy the design, and this phone makes it a bit harder than usual. I feel like it is a bit dangerous. I see that they made improvements on the 15 and 16 series from this point of view, so if I decide to upgrade to one of those, it will be even better. And even though I said that, it feels quite dangerous to hold it without a case, the phone remains quite solid and quite resistant to shocks. I don't have enough fingers to count the amount of times I dropped it on all kinds of surfaces, with or without a case, but still, not even a single crack. And the last remark here, I'm not the biggest fan of the glossy back glass, but since I'm using it with a case, it doesn't really bother me. And it still looks nice. Number two, the colors and the overall quality of the screen. I'm very specific here because I will come back to this when I will talk about the things that I don't like about this phone. However, I have to say that this screen is simply good. Not bad, not excellent, just good enough for pretty much anyone who would use it. You can't complain about it, really. Number three, the photos quality. Photos are good, and with a bit of attention to your composition and exposure, they get even better. I actually made a video on how to make better photos with your phone, which you can find on the other channel, so I invite you to watch that. Everything was shot using this iPhone 13, so yeah, worth checking out. When it comes to the main camera, the quality is, again, good enough. It does not excel in anything, but you will get great results most of the time, especially when it comes to social media. The iPhone does a pretty good job at setting the exposure automatically, so even if you're not a camera person, you'll be fine. The wide camera though is not that good. You can spot the differences in quality quite easily. There were moments when I got pretty nice results though, so as an add-on, it's more than welcome. I know that they have improved it over the years, but on this phone specifically, it's more like a gimmick. You won't be using this on a daily basis. Number four. The video quality. You can go up to 4K 60 frames per second. The iPhone is doing a strange thing, which to me is a bit frustrating. When filming from the stock camera, it will adjust the exposure real time, automatically. Obviously, when the lighting conditions are the same and not changing, it will not do that. But if you're filming outside, the lighting is often not the same across the whole video. However, there is a solution to that, and it's a free solution, and I'm talking about the Blackmagic camera, which works great, and I can shoot in ProRes. Rec 709 HDR, but ProRes. Very good stabilization, and the colors are decent. iPhones tend to be a bit more neutral. I believe it can be better, but at the same time there is no smartphone which really gets it right. Even a lot of dedicated cameras are struggling with getting the right colors. That's why we like using logs or 4:2 bits or even RAW filming. Number five, iOS. And there's a lot to talk about it, but I'm going to cover just a few things here. I'm keeping the other stuff for a separate and dedicated video. The main point that we need to take here is that you get a clean interface, which now is quite customizable. Yes, there are some bugs appearing here and there, especially with the newer releases, but they're usually resolved quite fast, even though I believe that 18.1 needs a lot of refinements. On the top of that, the ecosystem, which is working great AirDrop, Note Sync, screen mirroring on my Mac. But as I said, we are talking about the ecosystem and that needs at least 2 Apple devices. However, for me it works great and I love it. Number 6, Face ID. And this also applies for my iPhone XS. I have to admit that at first I was skeptical about it, but now I simply love it, more than any fingerprint sensor. Yes, it takes some space on the screen, see the notch, but it is faster and easier to use, especially after so many years of improvement. And it's also safe. Now, number 7, the overall performance. Despite having only 4 gigs of RAM memory, it really knows how to use it. Also, the processor, the A15 Bionic, performed and it keeps performing very well. I have to say though that after 2 years, it gets warmer or even hot pretty quick, especially when the weather or the temperature actually, the environment temperature is not optimal. When it does that, you can feel the drop in the performance, you start to have lags, and the phone is basically telling you, give me a break, I need to cool down. It will do that because when the chip gets hot, it will limit its performance in order to cool down. If it gets too hot, well, it can just break down. As simple as that. But it's not happening very often. It happened most of the times during the summer, but we get very hot summers here in Romania, up to 40 degrees Celsius. I believe it's quite normal, and I believe that the size and the case on the phone doesn't really help either. The bigger the phone, the easier it is to be cooled. The vapor chamber is bigger, better, and the heat has more space to dissipate. But nonetheless, still a good performer, and to me is still enough. It can still do anything that I need to do on it. Now, let's look at the things that I do not like about this phone. And I'll start with number 1, the lack of a telephoto lens. Not a deal breaker obviously, but personally I'm interested in telephoto lens. They do help with portraits, and I like to do a lot of portraits. And I saw examples of portraits taken with a 13 Pro with the telephoto lens, and they were decent at least. Because yeah, you also need to have a decent optimization over that telephoto lens. But yeah, I wish I would have had the telephoto instead of that ultra wide camera on this phone. And as I said, not a deal breaker, but when I will upgrade, it will become one. Number 2, the 60 Hz refresh rate display. And I know that people do not care about the refresh rate. Some of them don't even notice it, but I do. And I want a fair deal. You cannot ask $800 on a phone with a 60 Hz display. As simple as that. And it boggles me that Apple is still doing it with the base version. The 16 and the 16 Plus don't have a high refresh rate display. That's worse than penny pinching. Give us at least 90 Hz. That would be more than enough. And yes, the phone is still smooth and all, but with the help of a 90 or 120 Hz display, it would become simply awesome. Probably the best user interface experience. I mean, we see it on the Pro models and it just looks amazing. I know they have to somehow justify their Pro models, but limiting the screen is not the solution. I mean, look at Samsung, for example. Both the Ultra and the non-Ultra models have that high refresh rate, and yet the Ultra sells millions yearly. It's probably the most popular phone out there, next to the iPhones. Indeed, you can see bigger differences between the Ultra and the non-Ultra models, but that doesn't give Apple any reason to not do it as well on their models. They used to make bigger gaps in the past between the Pro and the non-Pro models, but right now, when you have basically the same chip, the same main sensor, the same ultra-wide sensor, and considering that probably people don't even care about the telephoto lens, yes, it may be harder to justify the Pros, but at the same time, I don't think it would be a crime against your profits to put that at least 90 Hz displays on the base models. So yeah, Apple, do better. Please. Number 3, and oh, this is another frustrating one. The Lightning port. Do I even need to explain this? I will do it nonetheless. So I have to make sure that I have the charger with me all the time, and when I'm filming something with a phone, I need to wait ages for it to be imported into the computer. And that's because of the USB 2.0 standard connectivity, which gets up to like what, 480 megs per second? It's simply the worst port out there. It collects dirt and dust faster than a black hole, that includes the speaker as well. But hey, at least they gave you a mediocre cable inside the package, which, to be fair, is a bit more resistant now. So I have mine for 2 years and it still didn't break. Also, 18 or 20 watts of charging speed? I just give up. Number 4, the price. When I got it, it was $800. Well, that's in the United States, but we'll take that as the main price, the MSRP if you want. It may sound like a decent deal, but I simply believe that it was not worth that much. However, I do believe that the 13 Pro, which was $1,000 at the time, that was worth it, but on this one, you still have too many things missing. For this price, at that time, you could get a lot more from an Android competitor. I'm looking at you, Samsung. And yes, you don't have the ecosystem, but we're only talking about the phone here. Most of the people don't even care about that. And also, considering the fact that Android has evolved a lot software-wise, you cannot use the argument that iOS is stable and it doesn't have bugs and doesn't lag, you don't need to restart your phone, because it's simply not true anymore. Especially, as I said, with the newer releases, there are quite some bugs. And yes, I had to restart my phone. A lot of times actually, which was not happening on the XS. So again, you cannot use that argument anymore. And I'm thinking about Samsung, which now is giving you 7 years of software updates. Same as, yes, Apple. And Android is actually stable now. I hear a lot of people saying that they have their Androids for over 3 years and they're not even thinking about changing it because it still works great. Number 5, the package. You get one sticker, some mandatory paperwork, and a USB 2 cable, which is not even compatible with the old chargers. Make it make sense. And it only gets worse when you think that it became a trend in the industry. The likes of Samsung or Google or even Honor are doing this as well. They're not including the chargers into the package. And I don't know, to me that doesn't make any sense at all. Now let's draw a line and see where this phone stands in 2024, soon 2025. If you would find it today on a deal, it would be a good choice. By deal, I mean somewhere around $300 to $400. That would basically allow you to enter the iOS and Apple world together with its benefits. It would also get you a decent phone, which will perform well in pretty much any scenarios. Yes, 60 Hz, but still smooth, thanks to the Apple's experience when it comes to transitions inside the user interface. Good camera, good screen, and overall a good looking phone. Also, you have a lot of options when it comes to accessories like cases or even stuff which is compatible with MagSafe. However, anything which is over that $400 mark would put some questions over it. Obviously, at the end of the day, it will depend on what you want and need from a phone. What you need to take into consideration is that at this price range, you have some good options in the Android field. Just think about the fact that you still get a good screen, you will probably find an OLED which is also high refresh rate, not adaptive, but high refresh rate, USB-C, fast charging, and a lot of chances that you would get the charger into the package. A fast charger. The only downside is that at this price range, when it comes to Android phones, like new Android phones, you are pretty much into the mid-range side of the spectrum. You would probably find a much slower chip compared with the A15 Bionic, which is on the iPhone 13. But those chips are still very good and very efficient. It will be able to handle most of the tasks, like social media, some photos, videos, even some light gaming. And for most of the people, realistically speaking, that's enough. And what I mentioned before, they all benefit from a high refresh rate screen. Another downside would be that you would probably get a worse camera system with worse optimization overall. Most of the R&D budgets are allocated for the flagships, but still cameras are decent in the mid-range territory. At least the main sensor, because that's probably the one that you will use most of the time. And also you get more options, more designs, you get to choose whatever interface you like the most. You have a lot of options. Now, obviously, as I said, at the end of the day, it is up to you on what you want and what you need. Personally, I would say that this phone has served me quite well. And even though it has a lot of downsides for its price, it reminded me that at the end of the day, it's just a phone, and for what it's been created, it did a good job. Do I need to upgrade? Definitely not. I think I can still use it for at least 2 years without any issues. Do I want to upgrade? Yes I do. And the reasons are mostly the things that I don't like about this phone. I want a high refresh rate screen, a USB-C port with fast transfer rates, at least USB 3 standard, because I want to start and make more content with the phone. And overall, I want better photo and video capabilities. I haven't decided yet, but if I will, be sure that you will see a video here on this channel. Now, you let me know what you think. Do you think that this phone is still relevant nowadays? And do you think that it is a good option considering that we are getting into 2025? Or if you own one, let me know what you think about it. What was your experience? And if you consider that you need an upgrade now. Also, I would like to get some general feedback for this channel and for these videos. Do you like this format? Do you like this whole frame in general? If you like how we approach the subjects that we are presenting into our videos, and if you have any advice on how we can improve the overall quality of the channel, let us know. And that was it. I hope you liked it, and I hope you found it useful. Don't forget to help us with a subscribe and a like. We would appreciate it a lot. And until the next time, take care of yourself. Bye bye.